Hey everybody, it's Nick Marzock with Full Compass. Bumped the mic. A few weeks back, maybe a month, 2 months, time as a flat circle. SSL released Revival 4000, that incredible rack unit standalone E-Series signature channel from the 2000s is back, or revived. Wait. This is not a review of Revival. I did that already, like a couple of months ago. Again, I don't know. Well, if you remember, or you don't, so I'll tell you. There were 2 rack unit channel strips from SSL back in the day. What day? I don't know. Some day in the 2000s. The E-Series signature channel, which is now Revival. What about the SuperAnalogue signature channel? That one is gone too. Does it get a revival? SSL? What is that? It's a SuperAnalogue channel strip. It's a rack unit. It's the Super 9000 SuperAnalogue channel strip. This is a greatest hits of the legendary J-Series, K-Series, and Duality consoles on a rack unit channel strip with some super flourishes from other models. Switchable variable harmonic drive circuit with second and third order harmonics, modern and reactive dynamics section, switchable EQ between G-Series 292 pink knob or the 242 black knob EQ from the E-Series, routing customizability and sound customizability. This unit will give you that sweet, pristine SuperAnalogue sound or some nice color when you add harmonic saturation. All customizable, all in your control. There's so much to get into. Let's go through it. This is full review. You ready? I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm feeling super. By the way, quick shout out to the microphone, the ML-1A by Slate Digital, also available at fullcompass.com. Go right now. And one that I did a review of, so check that out. Click a link. This is a large diaphragm condenser modeling microphone that pairs with Slate's virtual microphone system to model a gigantic locker of classic studio microphones. I'm not going to be using the software, but I wanted to mention it because the microphone has an incredibly flat and true frequency response, so we can really highlight what the Super 9K is doing in signal processing. Okay, just like Revival, there's a lot to get into, so I'm wasting time. The first thing I noticed when I took it out of the box was this blue front plate on the face. Really cool modern look, and it differentiates itself from Revival with that if you have both of them in your rack. Revival has the black front plate. It's what you expect out of a rack unit. It has this tough black steel chassis protecting all these valuable components inside. Okay, on the front all the way to the right is the power switch, so you're gonna lose me for a second. I'm just kidding, I still have my loft. Press that, the button lights up, the unit fires up, and we're ready to go. Wasting time. Okay, this is always tough, but we have to flip it over to show the back. Inputs and outputs, and power. Power cable plugs in all the way to the left. That comes with the unit. You probably have 17 already in your cable drawer, but here's another one. All the way to the right side or the left, if you're looking over the unit, are the inputs. These are Neutrik connectors throughout because only the best components will be used here. Mic in is XLR, and then a combo XLR TRS jack for line level sources. If you're going to use outboard processing for any reason, there are insert, send, and return jacks right beside the inputs. Then a combo XLR TRS jack for external sidechain sources, if you're going to be using an external source to trigger the dynamics. Next to that input is a sidechain link jack, which enables you to pair 2 Super 9Ks together for stereo sources, like a stereo instrument or a mix bus. We'll touch on that a little bit later. And finally, XLR output. Is this freaking flickering? I got a flickering light. On the back, this is pretty much indistinguishable from Revival. I could have saved myself some time and just clipped that segment out of the Revival review, but it's the components and the buttons and functions on the front that make this different and make it what it is. Flipping it back to the front. Oh boy, there's a lot to get to. Okay, stay hydrated. Let's go left to right, so we'll start closest to me with the input controls and the obvious stuff, right? 48 volt for phantom power, a pad switch for louder sound sources, polarity invert switch, a high Z switch. This unit is also great for direct instrument recording, like a bass or a guitar that delivers a high impedance. The mic channel gain is this red knob here on the bottom that goes from plus 20 to plus 70 decibels, and the gray knob on the bottom is the input trim from minus 20 to plus 20. It has a notch in the potentiometer so that it kind of locks right at 12 o'clock if you just want that at 0. The line button, I'm going a little out of order, switches to the line input. Imagine that. If I do that, you'll lose me because I'm plugged into the mic input. Now we get to the first unique feature of the Super 9000, the VHD button, and I'm gonna put on headphones to now monitor what I'm doing. Pressing this activates the variable harmonic drive. Like I mentioned before, the unit takes some of the greatest hits from the J series and K series consoles and Duality, which was the console that introduced VHD. All three models are super analog with an incredibly clean and pristine, sparkly sound. But Duality brought along this function, which enabled you to have some of that harmonic crunch and color without slamming it while still leaving headroom in the signal. The Super 9K has an entire saturation circuit that engages when this button is pressed. And using the knob on top, you can select if you want the really smooth and even valve sound second order harmonics, or go all the way clockwise for those gritty, rough, and trashy in a good way, transistor harmonics, or you can blend between them with that knob. Let's get aggressive to really demonstrate this. So VHD circuit is on, indicated by the LED, and this meter that is now reactive to my voice. If I crank up the mic gain and bring down the volume trim, now I'm really engaging that VHD circuit. You can see the meter peaking. The drive knob is all the way to second order harmonics, so this is more of that tube sound. And as I crank that knob up, this is now third order harmonics. So these are a little more dissonant, little grittier, or I can do a nice even blend between them. A lot of experimentation that you can do. Bring it back to second order. This sounds really great on a voice. It can add some warm color to it. Not only a voice, but instruments. Let's do a guitar. So this is clean with no harmonics. And now adding some second order harmonics using the VHD circuit. A little more aggressive now, turning it up. Let's do the third order harmonics, make it a little trashy. So much you could do with this. That sounds pretty cool. Second order. Third order. I think that's enough of that. You get it? After the input controls, we now have dynamics controls. Inside of the Super 9K, there's a really modern compressor based on the 2181 VCA channel compressor. So very fast, very responsive, and we have some options here. To turn on dynamics processing, press the in button right in the middle. Nope, that's the wrong button. It's tough from the side. In button right in the middle. The compressor knobs are the blue ones on the left, and your gate expander knobs are green on the right. Starting with the compressor, 3 knobs, threshold on top, then ratio on the bottom left, and release on the bottom right. Threshold is from +4 counterclockwise, +4 counterclockwise to -26 decibels clockwise. So turning it up lowers the threshold for compressing. You know all this. Ratio knob starts at 1:1 all the way counterclockwise, so it's basically off. And then the ratio increases until you get all the way clockwise, which is infinity to 1, basically a hard limiter. Release knob starts at 0.1 seconds and goes up to 4 seconds for those long releases, really controlling the sound with the compressor. Let's bring this to a good setting, something smooth. That's good. 2A12. Speaking of controlling sound, there are 2 buttons above the ratio knob. The one on the right is fast attack. Now this modern compressor already has a pretty fast attack, but pressing this will make it respond in just a couple of milliseconds. So if you have some transients that you want to tame, or you just want overall control of the signal. The second button on the left is marked PK, and this will make the compressor take its input from peak values. You can already hear it's a little bit more aggressive and obvious since I pressed it. When that button is not on, the compressor will be reading RMS values. So this makes a big difference if you were recording a snare drum, for instance. You might want to compress the peak values so that you can tame those impacts or maybe bring out ghost notes versus recording a vocal where you want, a more smooth overall waveform compression. This unit gives you the option, the control. As the compressor is engaged, you can see this orange LED meter lighting up. Then we have the gate knob. So threshold is on top from -30 decibels to 10 decibels, which is a great range to find where that noise threshold starts. Speaking of range, the range knob. This controls the depth of your gate or expander. All the way counter is 0, so it's basically off, up to 40 decibels. Then the release knob, just like the compressor, from 0.1 seconds to 4 seconds for a longer release. The gate also has a hold knob that holds the gate open before releasing, and that goes from 1 second all the way counterclockwise to 4 seconds clockwise. So you can have a long hold, long release and get 8 seconds before the gate closes. Just like the compressor, compressor, the fast attack button, makes it incredibly fast to open. This button below the threshold knob switches it from a noise gate to an expander that uses the same controls. So if you're doing vocals or voiceover work or podcast recording and you want something smoother without that hard noise gate, you would select that button. And you can monitor the gate or expander with the green LED meter in the middle of the section. When I finally shut up and I'm not talking. The more aggressive your dynamics, the more those meters will light up. Okay, next section, filter knobs. The low pass filter on top and high pass filter on the bottom. When the knob is all the way counterclockwise, the filter is off, and as you begin to turn it up, you'll see that LED light turn on, which indicates the filter is active. So, boop, there's the other one. Low pass filter goes down to 3 kilohertz, and high pass goes up to 500 hertz. So you can do some pretty aggressive filtering, as you can clearly hear. You won't be able to hear a word I say if I keep that on. And between that and the VHD, the sounds you could get out of this are pretty cool. I got my head shaved. Let's talk about some routing customization that we're gonna get back to a little later, but you can already see it in the filter section. This button marked input will move the filtering into the circuit right after the channel input so they can be applied pre-compression. Also at the bottom is a dynamic sidechain button that will apply the filters to the dynamic sidechain of the signal. Unselect, unselect. Let's talk EQ. SSL has always been at the forefront of EQ innovation, and the Super 9000 brings some of the classics together with great customization and control. The EQ in button right in the middle engages EQ processing, so now we can start playing around with the knobs. Hey 1 2, hey 1 2. Oh yeah, that's working. The standard EQ on this unit comes from the last versions of the G series console, the 292 or pink knob EQ, appropriately named for the pink knobs on the high frequency section. The high and low frequency shelving sections that include the namesake pink knobs and the low frequency other namesake black knobs that we'll get to are mirrors of each other. They work the same on opposite ends. On the top is the knob for gain, and the bottom is the frequency knob that gain is controlling. The midband frequencies are also mirrors of each other, with the low mid and high mid each having a gain knob above, and below there's a frequency knob on the outside and a Q shape knob on the inside. Speaking of Q shape, the 292 EQ has a variable Q design as well, so depending on how much gain you are sending, the Q shape will react differently. The more gain you're sending, the narrower the Q shape will be, and vice versa. So it's a really musical, smooth sounding EQ. Again, the best components, these knobs feel great, and if you want to bypass a band, the gain knobs also have a notch at 12 o'clock. There's a frequency I don't like. Let's find it. Right there. Let's get rid of that. Bring up a little bit of the low end and some of the high end. Make this a nice boomy voice EQ. That sounds pretty nice. 2, hey 1 2. Then there are these buttons in the middle. What are these buttons? I'll tell you about these buttons. On the right side is the dynamic sidechain selector, which will apply the EQ to the dynamic sidechain of your signal. Again, routing, customization. Then there's this button on the left that's marked E. This button will switch this from a pink knob 292 EQ to a black knob 242 EQ, the one that George Martin helped to develop. This EQ has enhanced cut and boost ranges and a different control lot. It's a little tighter, a little more surgical, more aggressive, and it's gonna make the sound different. Okay, here's where the EQ section gets a little complex, so follow along with me and comment below if I totally butcher this. These combo buttons underneath the low and high frequency band gain knobs. Depending on which EQ you are using, these buttons have 2 different functions. When E is selected, like it is right now, and you are using the black knob 242 EQ, these buttons will turn the low and high frequencies into a bell rather than a shelf, corresponding with the frequency that's selected by the knob. So whenever I select the low frequency, now you should be able to hear a sweep as I go through 2 2 2 2 2 2, as opposed to controlling just where the shelf starts. And same thing for the high frequencies. So now you can hear the sweep to hey 1 2, hey 1 2, hey 1 2. But that's the control for the black knob EQ. If I unselect the E button, I'm back in the 292 pink knob EQ. These same buttons now have a different function to now manipulate the range of the high and low mid-band frequencies. So on the low mid, if I select that, it will divide the frequency by 3, and the one on the high mid band will multiply the frequency by 3. In essence, you're increasing the range of your mid band bells. This gives you incredible control over your sound and the frequencies that you are manipulating. It's your sound, you control it, you customize it. Speaking of control and customization, let's now talk about the next section, which is routing. This tiny little section of a single rack unit can play a huge role in shaping the sound that you want, just like the massive consoles would. On the upper left, this this button enables you to reposition the dynamics to come in post EQ, so you can get it to respond to the frequencies you want to compress or gate, or not respond to ones that you don't. Then there's the input flip button. This will reroute the VHD harmonic saturation circuit to the line level input. Now you could put some great color on an instrument like, I don't know, a bass. Or put it on a mix bus, use it for reamping any line source that you can imagine. Below those, we have the dynamic sidechain routing controls. The first one says EXT, and that will enable you to use an external audio source plugged into that input in the back to trigger your dynamic sidechain. So if you want to sidechain a kick drum coming externally, that's how you would engage that circuit. Beside that is a link button, which will enable you to link two of these units together for stereo sources like a mix bus or a stereo instrument, and the dynamic sidechain of those two units will be linked and respond as one stereo unit. Directly beside those are your insert controls. If you are using any other analog outboard gear in your signal chain, this is where you'd control that. So the first button toggles it on and will activate the inserts loop, but I have nothing plugged in there, so. Then the OP button, which moves the insert point post EQ, even more customization to tailor your sound. And finally, on the very end, we have the output controls, which is really just this gray output trim knob, the LED output meter, and this button to switch the meter to now monitor input signal. Anything else I'm forgetting? There's so much to this channel strip. It's getting hot. I need to wrap this up. I love this unit. With the vintage flavor and style of Revival, this is a really great modern complement that's also capable of doing that harmonic saturation for the vintage sound. So you're getting the best of both worlds here. It's just a really versatile, pro-level, pro-built rack unit with the best components that gives you the ultimate control over your sound and a lot of versatility in that sound. Between the routing customization, the signature EQs that you can switch between, the modern dynamics, and the VHD circuit that you can completely control and manipulate, this would be an incredible addition to any studio or even home studio. You can have that super analog, pristine, modern SSL sound, or get a little dirt without having to buy a console that won't fit anywhere and that you may or may not be able to afford. So when you are ready to make that purchase, and I hope it's soon, give Full Compass a call, 800-356-5844. Our sales experts are trained in all things SSL, and they can answer your questions and fulfill your order to get your Super 9000 by SSL. Or just go to fullcompass.com if you're not in like a phone kind of mood, you know, and buy one there. Get two of them. You have stereo sources. You need two. Finally, the old channel strips that went away are back, and the collection is complete. Maybe? You never know what SSL is gonna do these days. For Full Compass, I'm Nick Marzock. Keep it right here at Full Compass for more gear reviews like this one, interviews, and so much more great content that we make specifically for you, the pro. Follow us on socials and on YouTube. Comment, let us know how you're using your Super 9K or things you figured out how to get cool sounds out of it, or let us know about products that you would like to see reviewed in the future. And if you have any questions, we are here. Call us. Fullcompass.com. SSL Super 9000.